You're all told stories. Stories of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. But beneath the polished narratives, a different game is played. A game of raw power, strategic interests, and the selective application of justice. And today, that very game is being played out in Venezuela. This is Alpha Signal. Beyond the headlines, beneath the lies. In the grand chessboard of global politics, sovereignty isn't an inherent right for all. It's a privilege, a conditional status granted or tolerated by the powerful, the overlords, to their vassals. Those that are powerful rule. Those that are not can only endure what they must. This isn't about whether Maduro or Chavez before him were good or bad leaders, or what they may or may not have done to their own people. That's a distraction. Our focus here is on the global stage, because while internal politics are complex, America operates on a scale that impacts the entire planet. This isn't about defending any regime. It's about dissecting the actions of the global hegemon. The official story was clear. Venezuela's leader, Nicolás Maduro, was a dictator, a narco-trafficker, a threat to regional stability. The U.S. government, citing the Kerr-Frisbee doctrine, asserted its right to snatch him from sovereign territory, offering a bounty for his capture. This doctrine, born from a 19th century Supreme Court ruling, essentially says, "We can take you, no matter how we get you, and then we'll try you in our courts." But here's the brutal truth. This isn't about universal justice. It's about who has the power to apply the doctrine. It's about who gets to be the kidnapper and who gets kidnapped. And let's talk about how flexible these designations can be. We've seen individuals, and even a specific entity from Iran, previously designated for controversial activities, mysteriously removed from sanctions lists. Not because their actions fundamentally changed, but because they found the right leverage. Consider the Syrian president. At one point, he was labeled in ways that would suggest he was beyond the pale. Yet he's welcomed in D.C., shoot hoops with the U.S. generals, and shake hands with the U.S. president. So, whether someone is labeled bad or an accepted leader becomes a matter of money and interests, not objective truth. Labels and designations are not fixed identities. They are commodities that can be bought, sold, or traded when the price is right. Now, say what you will about the U.S. president, but at least Trump is honest about the endgame. Sure, he spun the usual crap about drugs and cartels, but everyone knows that's just the pretext. It's the excuse to get the current leadership the hell out of the country so he can install a government that is friendly to American interests. The drug war rhetoric is just the crowbar he uses to break the door down. Once he's inside, he's not looking for cocaine. He's going to be drilling for oil. Venezuela sits on the world's largest proven oil reserves, a strategic asset in a world hungry for energy. The narrative of narco-trafficking and dictatorship conveniently overshadowed the undeniable truth. Control over Venezuela's oil means immense geopolitical leverage and economic power. Furthermore, if the U.S. can get Venezuela pumping at full capacity, under American oversight, it drives a wedge straight into OPEC. This isn't just about filling gas tanks. It's about leverage. By flooding the market with Venezuelan crude, Washington undermines the cartel's ability to artificially inflate prices. It turns Venezuela from a rogue state into a weapon against Saudi and Russian influence. This wasn't about saving a people. It was about securing a prize that guarantees dominance over global energy markets. But it wasn't just oil. Look at the Guayana Shield, a geological treasure trove within Venezuela. It holds vast deposits of coltan, gold, bauxite, iron ore, and rare earth elements. These aren't just shiny rocks. They are the building blocks of the 21st century. essential for electronics, aerospace, defense, and renewable energy. In a new great game for critical minerals, Venezuela became a target not just for its black gold, but for the very elements that power our digital future. Currently, China dominates the world's supply chain for these indispensable elements, controlling over 85% of the refining and processing capacity. This makes Venezuela's untapped reserves of rare earth not just valuable, but strategically vital. In this context, Venezuela became a target not just for its black gold, but for the very elements that power the American digital future and national security. This was a resource grab, plain and simple, aimed at disrupting a competitor's advantage and securing future supply lines. Beyond the physical resources, Venezuela committed an even greater sin in the eyes of the global hegemon. It sought to trade outside the petrodollar system, explored alternative currencies, and defied the dictates of Western financial institutions. This wasn't just about a country managing its own economy. It was a direct threat to the architecture of global financial control, a challenge to the very foundation of Western economic power. Such defiance cannot be tolerated, as Iraq, Syria, and Libya have also discovered in their own ways. To understand why this is a death sentence, you have to understand the trap they built in the 1970s. It's simple. If a nation wants to buy oil, the lifeblood of any economy, they must use US dollars. This forces every central bank on earth to hoard American currency. It creates an artificial, permanent demand for the dollar. It allows Washington to print trillions out of thin air, exporting their inflation to the rest of the world while receiving real goods and services in return. But this isn't a voluntary agreement. It's a protection racket. When Venezuela or Iraq or Libya tries to sell oil for gold or euros or yuan, they aren't just changing a currency. They are threatening the privilege of the printing press. And in this system, the choice is simple. Either you use the US dollar, or you are given the opportunity to rebuild your civilization from scratch, starting from the Stone Age. This isn't hypothetical. It's the operational playbook. And, true to form, the mechanisms of control can be seen. Sanctions crippled the economy. The lawfare intensified, and the question remains, if the U.S. had succeeded in its stated goal, who would truly govern Venezuela? The answer is obvious. Puppet regime, installed to ensure the flow of oil and minerals, and compliance with financial dictates. The democracy narrative would be served, but the underlying power dynamics would remain unchanged, merely shifting control to a more amenable party. And here's where things become truly absurd. Imagine for a moment if China, citing its One China policy, decided to unilaterally arrest the president of Taiwan. Or if China, declaring support for Taiwan a conspiracy and crime against its sovereignty, decided to arrest the Prime Minister of Japan. The global outcry would be deafening. It would be universally condemned as an act of war, a blatant violation of sovereignty. Yet, when the hegemony does it, it's framed as law enforcement. Or consider the sheer absurdity of the notion that Iran could unilaterally arrest the sitting U.S. president and whisk him out to Iran overnight. The idea itself is laughable, not because it's a moral outrage, but because Iran simply does not possess the power to execute such an act. This stark reality reveals the true nature of global justice. The powerful define what constitutes a crime and who is a criminal on the global stage. They are not subject to the same external enforcement mechanisms they wield. The idea of a foreign power unilaterally entering U.S. territory to extract its leaders is an act of war, not justice. In the end, only the weak say, "You can show the example of your power, or the power of your example. The truth is, the example of your power is the power of your example. So let's be honest. The US proved today that if you have the biggest stick, kidnapping is just law enforcement. And for countries with oil and critical minerals, it's American oil that is in the ground, or you are a target on a very short and shrinking list. Because, let's be honest, how dare Venezuela not pump the oil that rightfully belongs to America? The truth is stark. There is no law beyond military might. This is Alpha Signal. Subscribe for the reality through the lies.